r/AskReddit, what was the most fucked up thing you saw in school? Two guys in my class would always race to the door when the bell rang and try to get the other one late. One day one of them made it in class with a couple seconds to spare, so he whips around and slams the door closed. I sat in the front of the class at the time and all I see is a pointer finger shoot out from the hinged side of the door and bounce onto one of those metal shelves. The kid began screaming outside the door and my teacher, being the kind lady she was, ran to the door to see what had happened, but before she can get there, I guess she saw the finger and let out a whimper and collapsed to the ground. Mind you, this was a matter of seconds and now everyone in my class was alert, but before anyone could react, the kid runs into the classroom and yells my finger. And sure enough there was only a bloody nub where his pointer finger got cleanly cut off. All I remember after that was the other kid began to panic and get more hysterical than the guy who got his finger cut off. Shock is one hell of a drug lol. By now, a bunch of other kids were up and yelling outside the hallways for help, while I got some tissues for the kid to help the bleeding. In the end the kid went to the and actually got the finger 90% fixed. He says he still can't feel some parts of that finger, but he was fine. The teacher ended up going to the nurse's office and ended up fine. I know she went home for the day, so overall the day was a 6/10. Got less homework. TL. Doctor, kid got his finger cut off and door. Teacher passed out. Both ended up fine. There was a girl I was friends with who had developed early and had pretty big boobs and considered thick for a 5th grader. Hanged with a group of 5 or 6 girls. Most of the girls in this group were short, skinny, and the pretty ones of the class, so she stuck out from that group. During recess these 5 girls ganged up on her and pulled down, sometimes ripping her shirt exposing her chest, and laugh cause they thought it was funny. She'd fight it and tell them to stop, but they'd do it even more, sometimes pinning her arms to the side so they could. She ended up hanging out with me more and finding different friends in middle school. Jesus fucking Christ. This is just straight sexual assault. These were her friends and they were pinning her down and pulling her shirt down. There was a bathroom at my school near the special ed hall that nobody liked to use. The story was that occasionally during 7th period this special ed kid would go into one of the stalls and start loudly jacking off. One day I was in the bathroom taking a shit. 7th period because I'm a dumbass and didn't believe it, and this kid walks in and gets into the stall next to mine. He then proceeds to start jacking off and making loud unintelligible noises. Being an avid reader of green text at that time in my life, there was no way in hell I was leaving my stall till he was gone. I waited like 15 minutes of him making post-nut noises before he left without washing his fucking hands. I was mortified, and I decided to walk a lot longer to the next closest bathroom instead of using that one again. In 1st grade a boy pulled his pants and underwear to below his knees and laid down on his back, then a girl spat on him. I don't remember why, but I will never forget that sight. 2 fetishes were born on that day. A kid in my biology class accidentally stabbed his face with scissors. Then another kid chased him out of the room with a microscope slide to catch a few drops of blood. So he took his blood covered slide and the teacher resignedly let us see the red blood cells still moving around. The stabbed kid was fine. A few stitches and he was good to go. I worked at an American school in China a while back. One day, one of the school buses was on the way to campus from the city and there was an accident that students saw. A truck ran over a man riding his bicycle. The students on the bus witnessed the accident and watched as the man lay dying on the road. They were stuck in traffic and couldn't get away from the horrific scene for over 20 minutes. Kids were crying and traumatized. Most of them were elementary school students. There was a lot of grief counseling in the months after that. Edit. I had no idea so many people would connect with such an awful event. I'm sorry for all of you who have had to witness similar horrific accidents. In this case, which happened in Shanghai, SAS, in the late 90s, the man was dead on impact according to what we heard. May he rest in peace. Hope I was able to answer all of your questions. Wow, were you able to do anything to calm the kids down, or were you in shock yourself? Yes, many of us were in shock too. Details given by the bus driver just made the whole situation seem even worse. The bus driver was amazing BTW. He helped calm the students down on the rest of the long drive to school. He was fantastic. According to him, the truck driver drove off, and no police came for a long time. Bus driver was Chinese and radioed to other buses about the accident and told them to take a different route, and they all monitored to the radio for information about the situation. Anyway, we had some wonderful counselors in the elementary school, and our principal and assistant principal stepped in to help as well. The students were more in shock to begin with, rather than openly upset and crying by the time they reached school. Again, thanks to the great bus driver who had a wonderful rapport with the students. Thankfully, there were not many students per bus. I think that bus was one of the larger buses, but it still only had 10 to 12 students, compared to American buses which hold 40 to 50 students at least. The school did a good job communicating with parents right away, so they knew what happened and got some information about what the school was doing to help. In the end, while all students were monitored on an ongoing basis, only a few showed need for weekly sessions with one of the counselors over the course of the next few months. It was crazy, and I wonder about those kids and what they remember. It had to be scarring, and our scope of care was limited. We just tried to keep them in their regular routine as much as possible and watch for any signs of social withdrawal, etc. Watch two girls get into a fight. One girl had a bunch of ear piercings and was wearing so many hoops it looked like chainmail. The other girl got her on the ground, grabbed those hoops and pulled hard. I will never forget the scream. The rings didn't give, but her ear sure as hell did. Blood everywhere, the girl standing over her like a goddamn psychopath holding a very recognizable ear in the air above her head. It was fucking Mortal Kombat in real life. Girl fights in school were always nuts. My very first day of high school, two girls got in a fight. They were punching each other, clawing at their faces, and ripping each other's weave out, and a teacher came to stop them. Well, this teacher was rewarded with a shot to the kidney, and he got dropped. What an intro to high school that was. In 6th grade, my math teacher was arrested for having child pornography on his laptop and watching it during breaks. He had just finished helping me on a math problem when he looked up at me, smiled, and said, "I really like that birthmark on your face. It looks like a teardrop." It looks really cute when the vice principal walks into the room and asks him to step outside. We had big wind down in our classroom and the front door was wide open. Outside stood the entire administration and 2 police officers. The vice principal took his laptop and they left. Never saw that teacher again. I had a friend that was allergic to so many things he had to eat the same thing every day that he brought from home. I literally mean every day for years. He had a very bad day, failed a test, some things happened at home. We met up at lunch and he had 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. He said today seems like a good day to die, and proceeded to wolf down both slices. I had never seen him so happy. I walked him to the nurse's office as he ballooned up. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He never regretted the decision. My school had this thing called intervention. It was like study hall, but only around 25 minutes long, and it was designed to help out kids who needed help finishing work. Though let's be honest, it was just a short study hall meant to fill up the school day, and it was always right after lunch. We had to wait outside the classrooms for the teachers to get back from their lunch breaks though. Sometimes they came quick, before or right after we got there, but other times they came late. One time my teacher came 15 minutes late, and they never came at the same time. so it was awkward being alone in the hallway while everyone else was in class. It was 8th grade and a rather bad day for teachers. They were all late. We were all waiting outside the classrooms and the hall was packed with 14-year-olds. Inevitably, a fight broke out between two kids. One of them was named Joe and the other was named Luke, I think. I could be wrong on Luke. Joe was a huge prick who was in most of my classes, and Luke was a 7th grader that was also somewhat of a prick. There were punches and pushes thrown, but it was really had to see/hear it because of all the kids. In fact, I didn't even know what was going on until I heard a scream. In the hallway, there was a metal box on the wall that held the fire extinguisher. Joe had pushed Luke into it, and Luke hit the back on his head on the metal corner of it. Luke let out this blood-curdling scream, holding onto the back of his neck, crying and shouting, "My head." Everyone backed away from them, and there I saw Joe standing still, looking horrified, and Luke, on his knees with the trail of blood running down the back of his neck and ear. It was my first time seeing so much blood that wasn't my own, or on the internet, and it really startled us all. A janitor saw it, and unlocked all the classroom doors with his keys, and ordered us to get into class, which we did, while he took Luke to the nurse. Our teachers eventually came, but they couldn't let class out. The reason being, blood had gotten on the carpet of the hall, and that was a health hazard. After around 45 minutes, the janitor was unable to get the blood out, so he just put a trash can over it and told nobody to move or touch it. The day went on as usual. Around a week later we found out that Luke had to get 5 stitches in the nape of his neck, and his parents chose to pull him out of our school. Joe was also suspended for the fight, but apparently Luke's parents threatened legal action, so that suspension turned into an expulsion rather quickly. Rubber padding was put around the fire extinguisher box, so it wouldn't happen again, and to this day I don't know if the blood ever got out of the carpet. TL. Dr. 2 boys fought in the hall, and it ended with one of them needing stitches after bleeding heavily, and the other being expelled, in front of the whole grade. Edit. Thank you for the gold, but for the love of God, yes, my school had carpeted hallways. Thank you for watching. If you liked the content, please like and subscribe for more videos. I promise to upload videos that are not simply carbon copies of other edited videos to give you a unique experience.